welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. It's time to light out and check in with our favorite conservation program manager at Audubon Vermont, Mark LaBarr. Welcome back, Mark.
Always great to be here.
And we're always happy to have you.
All right.
And you folks just wrapped up the Audubon birdathon. Can you tell me how it went?
We did. So the birdathon is a fundraiser for us where we try to go out and see as many species as we can in a 24-hour period. And we did great this year. We had our all-time high number of species, 95 different species we saw, and you tried to do it in a 24-hour period. And we met our fundraising goal, which was really great. So thanks everybody for those of you that might have contributed. It was very successful this year.
All right, and we have a couple examples of birds you saw this year. What kind of birds did you focus on?
So, we do most of our birdathon right there at the Audubon Center, and we make a quick trip over to Heinsberg, to Prague's Park, so it's pretty kind of localized. But as we walk around the center, and we time it for when we're hopefully going to see the most species, because migration is happening. And usually one of our highlights, once we leave the back porch of the Audubon offices, we'll walk up the hill, and we hear and see this guy. This is the Blackburnian warbler, and just a striking bird. The colors are, when you see it in the trees, it's just, as you can see here, just that orange and red, and so that's a good one. And then recently we've, over the past 5 years, we've been hearing northern parulas that have been singing around the Audubon. When I first started there, we didn't, we wouldn't see them, but that's another good bird that we could see, and we actually picked that one up right at the porch. I think we have an image here of the parula, but that's a really cool looking little bird that we hear regularly. And then, a pine warbler. Now, this is not a bird that we, normally see at the Audubon, but it was a bird that was passing through, and we were able to, hear it, see it. There's a whole bunch of us out there, lots of binoculars, lots of eyes, so that's always good. And now there's the Merlin app, which is a big one there. And so here's the pine. Yeah, this is a, not as striking maybe as the Blackburnian warbler, but just a good bird for us there at the Audubon. And then we get it every couple of years, maybe not every birdathon year, but the Louisiana water thrush, which is another warbler, even though its last name is, its latter part of the name is water thrush. It hangs out along streams, along the Sherman Hollow Brook at the Audubon, and sometimes it's the Audubon, sometimes at the Bird of Vermont Museum. We had it this year at the Birds of Vermont Museum, so that was another good one. And then finally, this is a species, a forest bird species, pretty common in Vermont. And we manage the Audubon. We do some forestry, some silviculture, just for the black-throated blue warbler. And as you can see, it has a black throat, and it's blue on the back. And that little white check there on the side, right there at the wing, is real telltale for this species. The female's much duller, and so you can actually know that it's a female by that little white spot there.
All right, and how about you tell me about the other birds you saw?
So, you're walking around, you got all these people, everybody's listening. We have a broad-winged hawk, which has been around the Audubon the last couple of years breeding, and so we were lucky that it showed up. Broad wings, big white tail bands when they fly over, a forest hawk. A new one, which has been slowly coming up across the state, and we've been seeing the red-bellied woodpecker. This is a bird that's going through kind of a range expansion and has been showing up in Vermont now on a regular basis for the past decade or so.
And we've got a good amount of our own woodpeckers, is that right?
Yeah, so Downies, Harrys, northern flickers, those are all ones that we've had here in Vermont for years, yellow-bellied sapsuckers. But this is kind of the latest addition to that whole group of species. And then a really good one is the brown thrasher. Now, this is a bird which, it's a mimid, so it's with the mockingbirds and with the catbirds, very vocal. And sometimes this bird can be singing like in a bush right next to you. It's not a small bird, and they can be really difficult to see. So this is one of the species that we had over at Prague's Park, some of those shrubland species that we pick up over there that we wouldn't see at the Audubon Center. And then, another good one, if we can time it right, the scarlet tanager. So the scarlet tanager tends to be a higher canopy bird. So as things leaf out, we tend not to see it as much as we would. At other times, you can hear it. But right there as it's leaf out, when we did the birdathon, we got some really good glimpses of that bird and that striking red and black wings.
We have a couple more birds in a second, but is it, when you count something for a birdathon, do you have to see it? Do you have to hear it? Like, what qualifies?
Yeah, so what we do, at least 2 people have to either hear it or see it in the group, okay? So we want to make sure, we're not just adding birds to our list that, we think we heard, we have to confirm it. And, but with the group that we had, there were plenty, again, ears and eyes out there. So, it'd be like, black or blue, did somebody else hear it? Yeah, I got it. And we'd add it to the list.
Nice, it's a group effort then.
Oh yeah, very much so. It's a lot of fun. It's our whole staff and everybody, and we make a day of it, and even folks will camp out the night before at the center. So it's fun.
Absolutely. And how about some water birds that you saw?
Yeah, so we're fortunate that there at the Audubon we have the Huntington River. So something like the spotted sandpiper. This is a little bird that is often associated. You can see right on the banks of the Huntington River. They nest along the river. And so this was a good bird. And then, again, a bird every once in a while we will get it, but some years we don't, the common merganser. Now, this is a bird that folks will often see on lakes and rivers, and again, we have them along the Huntington River, and we just happened to catch one this year when we were down there.
And you mentioned that this is mostly at Huntington and Heinsberg, so are there some like lake or pond birds that you're just not seeing because that's where you are?
Yeah, so if we had gone up to Lake Champlain, we probably would have picked up a bunch more gulls, for instance, and terns. Headed up your neck of the woods, the Northeast Kingdom, there's a whole suite of species that you can capture there. So I think back in the day, a long time ago, a group of folks had more than 160 species of birds in one day, and but they went all over the state.
Sure, a lot of work then.
A lot of work, a lot of driving too, yes.
All right, and how about the last bird you saw?
So, the brown-headed cowbird. Now, this is a nest parasite. It's a bird that, people frown on. It's a gorgeous-looking bird, but it does parasitize songbirds' nests, and usually we find them all over the place. And we were driving back, we had just finished, we had spent some time at Lake Iroquois. We found a Caspian tern there, and we're driving back, and we were one way away from beating our record, and we just needed one more species. And we just happened to look over our shoulder, and there was the brown-headed cowbird sitting on a feeder of all places. So check, and we beat our record, and we called it a day.
Absolutely, and you say you were working with a huge team of people. Can you tell me who was out looking for birds?
So all of the Audubon staff participates in it, and here's a great selfie of the group. And so everybody comes together, and then there's a number of other people which will join us for portions of the day. So this is our team, and then our board goes out and does their own birdathons as well. And so we, compile all those funds together, and that's how we make our fundraising goal. It's just a really fun time. Just such a busy time of year. All the staff is doing all their different things to get us all together on a single day to be able to go do some birding. Just it's a great team building experience.
Absolutely, and you mentioned earlier, even before the taping, that migration is kind of a big part of your decision to do this now. So are birds still coming through our region, or is everyone kind of settled?
Everyone's pretty much settled. At this point in time, we're June, most birds are breeding. I was telling you, a lot of birds are even getting their chicks off. My tree swallows and barn swallows, the chicks just fledged yesterday. So everybody that wanted to move further north is moved further north, and we're just settling into the regular breeders that are here in Vermont.
And I don't think we have a photo of it, but is there a bird in particular that's always a challenge that you're always looking to get? Do you have a favorite to see at the birdathon?
We get it every once in a while, and it's the Canada warbler. And my coworker Steve, who does our forest work, Canada warbler is one of his priority species that he focuses on. And so it's a bird that we hope to capture. But we don't always do. So it's always exciting. This year we didn't get it. I believe we had one last year. it's always exciting. You never know what you're going to come across.
And a reason to come back next year.
And a reason to do it again next year, yeah.
And we're filming this a little bit before this is airing, not to show some behind the scenes movie magic, but it's been really hot this week. Is that something that really impacts birds?
You know, any organism, such as ourselves, birds, animals, this heat definitely has an impact. You know, I've been watching my tree swallows. All their young are in that little box there. It has to get hot in that box. And I actually saw one of the fledglings sitting there with its mouth open, you know, panting basically. When we go up and do the Tern Islands and it's hot like this, you'll see all the adults incubating, their mouths will be open, and they'll often go out and they'll belly dip on the water just to cool themselves down and keep the eggs cool. So they've got a number of different strategies that they can use in order to get through a hot spell.
And you were saying that you live pretty close to the Audubon. What are you seeing on your porch when you go out in the morning?
So I live at the Audubon,
so
which
close
is
you're there.
you get so close that I'm there. So yeah, I sit on my porch. I was out there this morning, you know, cup of coffee, watching the tree swallows, the barn swallows. It sounds like the house wrens have fledged. They're making a bunch of chatter out there. The ravens are flying over, usually 3 of them. 2 youngsters, I assume, squawking and chasing the parent because they want to continue to be fed. All sorts of activity, yellow warblers, you know, robins bouncing around. I can hear the veeries off in our sugar woods. You know, and when you slow bird, as folks call it, right, and you just sit there and take your time, yeah, and you have a time to take and watch the birds. It's great. When we're doing birdathon, it's like, check, got it, move on to the next spot. So it's really nice to just be able to take the time and watch birds go about their day.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have a question about birds, you can write Mark at the address on your screen. His email is listed there as well. And remember, pics or it didn't really happen. That takes care of Across the Fence for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX. I'm Julie Whitney. Have a good one.